Hi, my name is Tatiana Merced, and you are listening to the first episode of Musically Driven. Here, we will be talking about our favorite iconic people of color who have changed the music game over time. Hi, everyone. I am so excited for you guys to be listening to Musically Driven. This podcast is something that I've been looking really forward to. I'm doing research with my school on how people of color have contributed to modern day music, and I'm doing it through a podcast. So I'll be splitting up the episodes by genres and important topics or significant time periods for people of color in music. And I'm hoping that some of the episodes will have current artists who is contributing to music right now, or having historians who are doing the research on these genres or time periods come in and talk to me. I'm really excited about the things I can find and the people I can talk to. And the whole point of me doing this in podcast format and not as an essay or a PowerPoint presentation is I wanted everyone to learn along with me. And especially within my music school, I go to the Korean School of Music at S1EP1, and I'm a junior and a music business major with a concentration in voice, and I'm hoping to come in A&R. So as informational as will be, I also hope to make it super fun to listen to. Today I have a few people with me who go to my school, and they are people of color, and I wanted to talk to them about what they wanted to hear from me and what inspires them to do music. Now we will do a cute little introduction. Tell us your name, major, and concentration.
Okay, so hi, my name is Zian, but pretty much everyone here at Crane calls me Z. I'm a music performance and music business major with a concentration in voice.
Hello, how's everybody doing? My name is Jalen Johnson. I am a junior music education major. I play bassoon and I have a concentration. Wait, hold on. Wait, I messed that up. I play bassoon and I'm on the band track.
What's up? My name is Vatressa. I'm a junior music business major, and my concentration is percussion.
Hi, my name is TJ. I am a music education major with a concentration in voice.
The first question is, what made you want to come to music school, and who has inspired you to continue with music?
I started off in the classical realm of things. I was a dancer and I played the violin. And then when I was about 9 years old, I asked my mom to start taking voice lessons, and she said yes. From there, I just focused pretty much all my attention on singing. And ever since then, I just really wanted to go to music school. By the time I got to high school, I was super determined, and I applied and came to Crane. And then keeping up with my motivations, definitely my family. They're really big supporters of me. They've always pushed me to follow my dreams, follow my passions. I'm super grateful to have that sort of support system in my life, as well as my and your studio professor, Professor Chalker. She's really inspirational, had a wonderful career, advises me in my future plans, and just keeps me motivated when I need someone to. And then also just my friends. Being at a music school and being at Crane, it's a really supportive environment in a lot of ways, and just having that like extra bit of motivation from my friends always is just an added bonus.
Okay, so for me, I started music in high school. In 8th grade, I wanted to be a part. Well, in middle school, I wanted to be a part of the band. I couldn't because they couldn't put it on my schedule. So I was just one of those random kids. I don't know what I was doing. And then I went to high school originally for technology. I was gonna do technology, and then I found a band program. I was like, oh, that's cool. So I started playing clarinet, and then I got bored of clarinet and switched to saxophone. I played saxophone for 2 years, and then I was like, I really like teaching, and I really like, doing music in general. So I picked up bassoon and was like, oh, this is nice. And that was around my junior year of high school. And then I had my Crane audition the next year. And I'm surprised I got in. I never had the opportunity to have like private lessons or anything like that. I just had to self-teach myself everything. And then my family was super supportive of me doing music. I grew up around music with my dad because he played guitar. So I used to sing with my dad. a lot of the when I was younger, a lot of the time, and now I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing. I have my family to support me, and they really push me to be better for myself and better for everyone else. And I just want to make an impact, a positive impact, whatever whenever I can or however I can.
For me, I don't think I always knew that I wanted to do music school, but I knew that I wanted to do music in general. Because at a young age, I'd taken interest in drumming, and my mom saw that, and she was like, "Oh my God," because my grandpa played drums. So and for all my siblings, she kind of wanted us to do artsy things, but for me, she was like, "Oh my God, you should like drum." um, but thankfully, I had a passion for it, so it didn't feel forced. I mean, it kind of did in like middle school when she was like, "You should do band." But when I was thankful that she made me, even though I was shy, because it introduced me to those things. And I don't know. I guess I was like, what could I do for college? Like when I was finishing up, I was like, what do I do? And I like to perform. So that's what I auditioned for, but I ended up doing music business because I realized that, everything that I like about music has to do with the industry in some degree, how everything's produced and all of that. So I was like, wow, I'd love to do that. And I guess my family is what has kept me going because my mom like encouraged me to do music because she doesn't see it as like a waste of time or anything. And I know that in the past people used to think that way, but it's like totally not. Like everyone should do music. Everyone. um,
Um, what inspired me to come to music school? So this is kind of like a popular or common story of like people having this one teacher that inspires them to keep going. That like kind of like changes things, changes their perspective a bit. So I had this one teacher. He came from the school that I'm going to. He came from Crane, and he taught me a lot about not just music, but like just about myself. He taught me to think critically about everyone, about everything, about myself, about my beliefs. He taught me to just really understand the why, the what, the how, the when, the who, all of the things. And that was important for me. I didn't get that in high school until I had him and he came. So, and I guess similar to Z, I I mean, I initially was motivated by him to go to school after high school, but I continue to find that motivation like through everyone around me, through everything that I don't know. It's everything is motivating. You know what I mean? Everything is motivating. So you know,
No, I was gonna add on to like how what made me want to come to music. So I said the story to Zian earlier about how I went to the Met for the first time and I saw like this African American like recital, and it was so cool, and there was like a bunch of people just coming on stage who were people of color sing gospels and spirituals with an orchestra, and I see this lady come out in this like beautiful blue dress, and I'm just like, oh my God, I want to be you. Like she just sounded so pretty. And so, huh? I cannot remember. I was like in the 7th grade, and I was just like, I want to be you so bad. And so ever since then, I just continued with music, and I love music ever since. I just can't imagine a world without it. And my parents always really pushed me to continue music. Like I'm like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. And my parents like, are you really gonna give up? I'm like, no, you're right. So I love you guys' answers.
My family's the same way.
Yeah.
Every time I'm like, am I gonna stop? There was like, you have to keep going. I was like, you're right, I do.
Okay, so my second question is, do you think our institution makes an effort to expand on their selections of
not
music?
enough.
All right.
And
TJ.
I think it's great. Like we have music history and music theory and all of these things, all of these musical studies, and then we have our ensembles. And it's cool that like in our ensembles, we're starting to see a shift from more classical operatic like stuff to gospels and jazz pieces and Latin pieces, and that's cool that we're doing that in our ensembles. But I think we should keep that same energy in the music history classroom, in the music theory classroom, because there's a lot of period. I'm gonna leave it there. Can you clip stuff like okay? Because yeah, they should keep the same energy in our music history and music theory classrooms. It's not fair that I have to learn about Beethoven and Bach and Telemann and Caccini. You know what I mean? I don't really care about them. They're cool, but let's talk about the way we romanticize them too. Like that's a whole nother story. Like the fact that I don't know, because they say they want music to be intellectual, which is why classical music is the main music we study in school, because it's, I mean, you can find an emotional attachment to it, and for some people it is very emotional, but I feel like they argue that classical music is one of the most intellectual, and opera is one of the most intellectual genres, and one of the only genres that can like merge heart and mind is a big thing they talk about. But honestly, like, that's not true. A good artist is a good artist regardless of genre or time period or any of that shit. You can't tell me that Lil Wayne and Drake are not as good as Beethoven and Bach. I know you hear the bars. You cannot, like, you can't tell me, bro. You can't tell me that X wasn't as good as Telemann. You know what I'm saying? Like, good music is good music, and intellectual music is intellectual music. Drake is hella intellectual. J. Cole is hella intellectual. But we don't get to study this shit. You know what I mean? Like, for some reason, it's not valid enough. And some people are going to hear this and laugh. But pride is the devil. Yeah. I think it got a hold. That song is about how pride can ruin relationships, can ruin families, can ruin marriages.
What was the question again?
Do you think our institution makes an effort to expand on their selections of music?
Okay, so do I think they make an effort? Yes. Do I think they execute it well? No. I'm someone who's constantly preaching about the fact that you need to stop relying on your students of color to educate you, and you need to learn how to educate yourself. And I think the expectation here is that if we're going to learn about genres outside of the classical realm, it is the responsibility of the student to bring it forth. And that's just not, that shouldn't be the case. When you're paying to attend an institution, or even if you're not paying to attend an institution, if you're just a student in a school, it's not your job to educate, it's your job to learn. And I think that our school relies too heavy on students. I also think that we have an issue with picking things that are appropriate, especially within the performance realm. We're all vocalists, so we've all been sitting in choir rooms before, and I think a lot of the times there is a big push for us to bring in music, but no one is educating themselves on where that music's coming from, or really think about, is this appropriate for our group to sing? Like, we were sitting in choir for these past couple weeks trying to determine what we were going to sing for a concert, and a choir full of 98% white students with like maybe 2 black people in it. This girl brought in this song called Better Get You Learnin', which is about emancipation and the lack of education provided for black people, and specifically a line that made me realize I was sort of just like, this is a little questionable. But then this line, I'm just going to quote the song, that reads, "The year was 1863. The paper said that I was free, but no one read it to my ears, and so I slaved for 2 more years," was one of the lines in the song. And clearly there was just a lack of education that went into whether or not this would be appropriate for us to sing. And I don't even think the person who brought it in really even understood the origins of it. And the fact that, first of all, I had to be the one to shut down that conversation and be like, no, I don't think it's appropriate for us to sing this, is kind of like baffling. The fact that like professors aren't knowledgeable enough on this information to know that they should be the ones saying that is baffling in itself. And then the fact that, like, as a student of color, I had to sit there, listen to this piece that is clearly inappropriate for us to be singing, that's a subject matter that's literally about slavery within the United States, and gets like even more graphic and talking about lynchings in this song, and to have it be brought forward for an all or majoritively white audience and choir is just wrong, in my opinion.
I very much agree with the both of you. I think there's like so much space for Crane. I would say Crane. We go to Crane. There's so much space for Crane to improve and like really expand on our music selections, but they don't. And like CJ said, it's so annoying when they make it seem like classical is this like foundational thing that we need to know. Like we can know it. Like great, we know it, but there's so much music out here that we can expand on. And then they're trying, but then they're bringing in things that are not really for white people to sing. And it's not saying that they can't contribute, like not contribute, but they can't sing gospel music, but it's just like do the research behind the music. Like don't bring in something that talks about picking cotton on the side of the plantation. But I know that I thought that was crazy.
And this stuff like is way wider than just Crane in itself. Like I've had so many experiences. We were talking about this a little bit earlier today where I sang a song when I was a 7th grader with a choir that was, I think it's called Pick a Bale of Cotton, but the lyrics it's a work song where the chorus goes jump down, turn around, pick a bale of cotton, jump down, turn around, pick a bale a day. And this like 99% white choir of children was singing this in a church. And I was like, clearly there was just a lack of education and a lack of responsibility taken on by the people picking this music. And it's just, that stems from the youngest kids all the way up to us. And now we're sitting here at a school that's primarily education majors, educating students to show them like that's okay to put into their classroom. And it's just going to keep furthering the issue and the systemic issue that's growing, honestly, rather than shrinking.
I'm in the same situation, like being a concert band, being a wind ensemble and orchestra, just playing music by dead old white men. I forgot who phrased it like that. I think it was John. It's just an unsettling feeling, and the conversation of do we separate the music? Oh, I should say, we play a lot of music from, like, how should I say, racist men.
I was going to say racist times.
Oh my gosh, I was thinking about that when I think about Aaron Copland pieces. I'm so sorry. Go ahead, Jalen.
No, continue.
Yeah, every time, because I remember freshman year when Chalker was talking about Aaron Copland, and one of his pieces said something that was insane. And I was just thinking, like, okay, so why do we low-key still sing Aaron Copland? Like, you know what I mean?
I changed my recital around because I had a set from Aaron Copland on there, and I was like, no, like, I can't do this. Yeah.
Because they want to separate the music from the artist and think that's, the music is important, what he did or what they did. Oh, that really is important. Yes, it is, because that influences the music itself. But, they don't, the school doesn't really take that into account at all. So I think that we should be, in 2023, playing more music from Black composers, and it's, Black History Month. Come on now.
Since it's only my second semester, I've noticed a lack of different people of color other than myself in the class. And growing up in upstate New York, I've kind of been desensitized to it, but you still notice it, and you're still like, wow, I wish there were more people that look like me in the class. So I definitely agree that like having more diversity in the school, but as well as like what we're learning, because I think I don't think we talk enough about where certain music stems from, or just like different genres of music in general, especially if you're a music business major or minor. Because that's one thing that has bothered me the most since I got here, is just not being able to highlight all realms of music, because I love all music, especially like highlighting the music that stems from like Black culture and like how we made that come to fruition. So that's another thing that I would love to see them change.
So, how do you think you would benefit from learning music from your own background?
So I don't really know that much music from my own background, which I think shows like how bad this problem really is. Majority of the things I've learned have come from white male composers, sometimes white female composers. Um, and now that I really think about it, at least within my solo repertoire, I don't know if I've ever sung a piece by a black female composer before, which is just baffling because I know there's got to be thousands of them out there. So, I mean, I definitely think it would be beneficial in terms of like empowering me, in terms of like showing me that there are people that look like me and come from similar backgrounds as me within this world. But the like truly sad part about it is I don't really know how I could benefit from something because I've never even come close to experiencing it. And honestly, now I even really think about it, I don't even remember studying any black female composers within like my theory classes or history classes or anything like that. So even if I had studied their music, I had limited knowledge on the person themselves, and a lot of times limited knowledge on the pieces and like the history of them. So like I don't even know how I'd really benefit from it, other than like I feel like it could be an empowering experience. But I think in the general sense, just like the more knowledge that you can gain about the music world, the more that's always going to be beneficial for you. The like more knowledge you can gain, as a performer, as a teacher, as a student, it's just the more you can take in from the music world and learn about it, the better. So,
For me, I'm a big advocate for not only teaching classical music in the teaching classroom. There are other genres of music that your students will like. Hip hop, for example, like it's a 20th century. Kids, students are not listening to classical music as much as we think they are. It is good to have, if you're making a repertoire list, have something, ask students for suggestions on what they would like to play, or even if you don't choose anything from their suggestions, you're still giving them the opportunity to contribute to the overall teaching environment. So, just teaching students, even college students, that classical music isn't the only type of music you have to teach as a teacher is very important. You can do a whole lesson on what did I do with I made a lesson plan on Element by Kendrick Lamar.
I love that song.
It I had to explain to my classmates because a lot of them were confused. Oh, you chose a rap song as a teacher. I'm like, yeah, this is music as well. If you didn't know that, if this is also music. It may not incorporate, as many instrumentalists, but it is still music. And if you don't deem it music, I don't know about that. You gotta fix something going on in your head. But it should be taught in schools that, I'm gonna reiterate it again, that you should teach more than just classical music.
So, I feel like because I went to a predominantly white school, like growing up, and then I'm coming to another predominantly white school, it's been hard for me to relate to the music. You know what I mean? They talk a lot about these like fantasy worlds and these, like these. There's a bunch of these kind of concepts that I don't care about, like Into the Woods and Winter Wind and shit. Like that doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? Like I'm more so just worried about how I can take care of myself, how I can take care of my family, make sure that I'm not being a burden to my family, make sure that I can take care of the people that I love, the people that I want to love in the future. I'm trying to make sure that I can do all this. So when I sing a spiritual that just talks about the way that we as people struggle and have to overcome that, like that for me is so much more beneficial than singing a medley from Dear Evan Hansen. You know what I mean? Not to say that the concepts in that show are I take that back. Dear Evan Hands is a good show. But like Into the Woods, Dear Evan Hands, because that's something that like all people can relate to. You know what I mean? But at least to some extent. But anyway, but like Into the Woods, like you know, I don't really care about that. I don't really care about Disneyland and all that shit. You know, like so. It's been empowering to have the liberty to study like spirituals and gospel pieces. And
A lot. Because I don't know. I guess I don't have the full knowledge of everything. I took 2 music history classes before I got here, and those weren't based on classical music. I think actually one was. But we still did talk a lot about like I guess music from the 20s and up is what we talked about. And I guess I would benefit a lot because a lot of my motivation has been through listening to multiple types of music and learning multiple types of music. And I love like classical, and I love doing band pieces because band pieces are amazing. But it's like, what about the black composers as well? Because then it's like, wow, I'm not just playing something by a racist man or anything like that. And it would just be really cool, I think, especially since I know in band, there'll be like the not composers, conductors will be like, oh, all about like they'll give the rundown of like Granger or something, and I'm like, if this was a black composer, would you be able to do that? Like give the rundown on that? Yeah, exactly. And I guess it does really bother me, and I think I would benefit a lot because it give me more motivation and help me understand like even more so like what black composers have done for classical music and like other black artists have done for other types of music, all that.
What are a few things you know about the music that comes from your cultures and backgrounds?
Not much, if I'm being 100% honest with you. I like by choice, honestly, I've stuck more to the classical realm of things. That's just where that's what I prefer to sing. It's where I think my voice is suited for the best. Not that I don't enjoy other genres, that's just like my primary one. And because in the classical realm, not only is it Eurocentric, because also when we that's a tangent, but when we think about like the idea of like classical music, what does that mean? Like obviously there's a classical era, but we also talk about like romantic era music and stuff like that. Like it's always these Eurocentric type things where it's like, but what do you mean classical music? Like what makes something classical music other than it was written by a white man? Like, am I wrong? Like, so, but because of that, like I just have really limited knowledge based on what I've studied. There is specific technical things that come with that. But I think like the world just really, at least the world I've been exposed to in terms of music at Crane and other places, just really isn't open to looking into different ways to teach that technique. I don't think we have to do things that come straight from Italian operas in order to teach classical voice singing and teach the bel canto style. I think you can do that with pretty much any style of song. And it is unfortunate. Like I was thinking when I made the comment earlier about the fact like I've never sung anything by a black female composer. I think I've thought back to like one piece I did, and that's like the only thing I can think of. And I played the violin since I was 3 years old, and I've been in choirs since I was like 7, I think, nonstop. Like I've never taken a break. And the fact that I can only think of like one person who has a similar background to me, and even then it's not the exact same background. Like I don't even think she was mixed necessarily, which like does give me a different output on terms of like, I don't know, I constantly have the conversation in my head of like, am I black enough? Am I too white? Am I not white enough? Issues with my hair, all the things that like, I don't know, it's a common occurrence for mixed kids to feel like you just don't belong places, but that's unrelated. Well, it's related. It is related. But I just like my knowledge is so limited, and I think that really does show the problems that we're having is the fact that it's just not available to me. And it's not fair, honestly, because white students, both female and male, especially male, but both female and male, have access constantly to music that not only comes from their background, they're like the region of the country that their family originally migrated from to the United States. And I can't even find a single piece in my repertoire that has been given to me that was by a black woman or even a black man, I think, honestly, within my solo things. And yeah, I think that's why stuff like this is important, is because it makes you think, like, wow, I really don't know anything by black people because it was never given to me.
I've been able to study spirituals individually. I have a great voice teacher. I'm going to shout out. I don't want to say it. I don't know if she wants to be mentioned on this. I'm not going to say it, but I have a great voice teacher. I actually had 2 voice teachers here so far, and they were both great in that they allowed me and even encouraged me to like dig deep into like the music that I want to study, whatever that is. So I decided that I wanted to do like spirituals and gospel music because I grew up listening to gospel music. And so the thing with that is, like, because of the way that these racist Europeans stole us from Africa
They enslaved us, DJ.
and then made us slaves.
Yeah. Europeans stole us from Africa. Made us slaves.
The way they did that, so the Christian religion was
Forced onto the slaves.
Yeah.
You could say it.
Yeah. And so there's a lot of like connections between Christianity and African American history, and especially in spiritual. Like a symbol like the Jordan River, which biblically is a river that represents like crossing over into freedom. So a symbol like that is constantly revisited in spirituals, and it represents, well, scholars interpret it to be like representing getting out of this life period and entering into heaven, which is crossing the Jordan, or just getting out of the torturous slavery. So one or the other or both of them.
That for like knowledge of like my background and my culture, I guess I don't have as much as I'd like. I mean, during like the music history classes I took before I transferred, I learned like, a lot of like rhythm and blues and country and things like that, rock and roll, stems from black artists, but were popularized by white artists. I forgot. I won't get into specifics because I'll say something wrong. But because like I'm thinking of a name, but I don't want to like have it mixed up. But I just know that is a definite aspect and that's something that's happened for like years and years and years. I feel like musically, that's about all I know. I don't know in the classical world, like composers of color. I don't know their background a lot, but I know a bit more about more like pop and other things like that.
Like when I was a kid, I didn't know Jimi Hendrix was black. Like because what, like, you know, it's such a big thing that rock music is white music when it's not, you know. I put in like little quotation marks, guys, see it, like little quotes. Anyway, so like it's not like black people created rock music, and Jimi Hendrix's story was just so fascinating to me because like he was like creating all this new music, this new sound, but the funk era didn't really accept him. And then, but like a bunch, like the white people in the village accepted him, so he liked playing over there. It was crazy. But and then I realized that's why a lot of people don't even know he's black, because he was here and he said that. And I watched an interview by him. Like I dig deep into Jimi Hendrix. It was kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie.
I got a little obsessed.
Yeah.
I talk about Jimi Hendrix a lot.
Me and Zian are on FaceTime for like an hour, and I'm like, bro, this shit is crazy. I'm not supposed to say bad words on this show.
I was trying to talk to her about boys, and she's just sitting there being like, Jimmy, did you know Jimi Hendrix? I was like, Tati,
No,
makes my life.
but like it was crazy because he was saying how complicated it was to play in the United States because everything was like so much on race, and he just wanted to play. And I thought that was insane. I literally am obsessed with Jimi Hendrix story, and then he died.
Well, this is like why I'm a huge advocate for not forcing black people to be your educator. Like if they want to. I'm someone who like outwardly spoken, and like sometimes I'm not in the mood, but sometimes I will sit there and tell you what I know and speak on my own experiences, which are like an interesting one because I am pretty much the closest to the lightest shade you're gonna get a black out there. But I'm just to speak on what I know. But like that's why I also love Jimi Hendrix, is because he was like, it doesn't always have to be about my race, you know. Like sometimes I feel like black people never have the privilege of just showing up and doing their stuff. It's always like you're here and you're black.
Yep.
Okay, so how can something like what I'm doing shed light on people of color in music?
Oh my God, I am so passionate about this. So I've tried to do a lot of diversity work here at Crane because it's something I'm very passionate about. And even though I'm not an education major myself, I don't like want to necessarily be a teacher in the classroom traditional setting. I am passionate about like diversity within music and people becoming more knowledgeable about it and being a responsible performer and educator and knowing what you're talking about. And just the fact that like this is going to be a resource for students long after we're all gone, that they can look back to and just listen to and become more knowledgeable on. I also think talking about what we were talking about before, where people just don't want to research it. Like sometimes they're like, a lot of times they're just lazy, or they don't care really, or they just want to like act like they care, but they're really performative activists. Making things easily accessible to people for Tati's freaking out, guys. Making it easily acceptable.
Because I felt that in my soul. Performative activists get me so mad in the school.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. But making it easily accessible to people, and so they like making it look bad if they ignore it, kind of like they look bad if they're not paying attention. He's gonna do a lot. I think even like this conversation, just like sitting here in like a comfortable space, I'm really big on like trying to develop safe spaces for Crane students, because sometimes it's just not about you. Like, like every time I try to make a safe space for black students at this school, it's always like, that's exclusionary to white people. I'm like, it's just not about them. Like, why do you need to be in that room so badly, you know? And the fact that like there is going to be now a conversation out there, people openly talking about this, talking about our own struggles. I think we're going to see, I really hope, because I'm so tired, guys. Like, I can't do this stuff anymore. I'm quitting. And they're like, you can't quit. No one else will do it. I'm like, that's not fair. Like, I kind of want to do it anymore. But the fact that this is like going to exist out there, I think is, at least from what I've heard people saying, I think it'll make some real change, and we'll probably start some conversations. But be prepared.
I think this podcast is good. Well, what we're talking about in general is good for spreading awareness about these issues. As Zian said, you know, students or people, you know, when we're long and gone, listening to this and listening to what we had to go through during this time will be very beneficial for them. Hopefully times are better, but this is just like I guess, a way for us to talk about how we are going through these problems, and maybe other people relate, and maybe we can get more people to speak out on their issues and everything. So I just want to make a safe place for everybody. That's really it.
I feel like I want to have this complicated answer, but I feel like it's simple. You are asking us directly about our experiences, about what we want to see happen, about what we have been seeing happen, and how we feel about it. And whoever is listening, it's like it's their job to respond, like in whatever way that is. So with this, I mean, you have like you're directly hearing what we want to see happen. You know what I mean? Like it can't get much simpler than that. Like we're being so transparent. I would think at home, and
Glad you brought that up because I do think the whole point of me even doing this first episode this way was so that I can have some people in Crane, people who are actively doing music, people who are in the same facilities as me every single day and see what their perspectives really are. And I just feel like sometimes we just want to be listened to. And sometimes, this is me too, like, even when I'm talking to Chalker, like, that's our teacher, even when I'm talking to Chalker, and she's great at it. Like, she's great at just sitting and listening. Like, sometimes we just want you to listen. Like, there's never, like sometimes we know we're aware that you can't fix everything in 4.7 seconds. We get it. We're all 20, 21 years old. We've been going through things for 20, 21 years. Like, so we're all aware that this is something it's not an easy fix. But if you're just listening and taking that in and being socially aware after you listen to us, that's all we want, you know?
But we knew we'd need allies. We can't do this stuff alone.
So my last question is, what are things that you want to hear from me?
I want to hear you like ask about like pedagogy and how we relay information to, and like how we structure our classrooms for people who come from different cultures. And like and like music, it's like, so I'm a music education major, so music and education, two different things but connected in this field. And it's so gosh, like when I hear shit like hip hop in the classroom and jazz in the classroom, like it kind of bothers me because it's like it's just like it's making it the other, but like and it is the other, right? So like it is the other in the classroom. Outside of the classroom, that shit is more popular, more appreciated generally than classical music. I don't know, it's just like this weird thing. But I would like to hear like pedagogy, like questions on like pedagogy, like what we think of the way that these classrooms are run, because I feel like in high school, like, well, I don't know. I had one teacher who ran his classroom like completely different than like my other teachers. So with him it was nice, but I feel like most teachers are stuck in this, I'm not even going to say it's related to race, but it's just an old fashioned way of like schooling. And even then it is related to race because like
Everything is history. Look it up.
Yeah.
If you look anything up, you're gonna find, wow, this is racist.
yeah, like it's like even the fact that like the way that like people like sit in like desks and they have to teach at the, like that's not the way that everyone learns. That's not the way that I learned growing up. Like I'm more of a hands-on, let's do something. Like I'm more of a like, let's talk about it, but like this, oh yeah, like this, I'm more of like a hands-on, let's do something, let's talk about it. That's how I learned when I was young. That's how my family taught me. And like I don't think I don't know. I think that's more of like the natural way of learning. Like we like this classroom shit is like it's too artificial. Like like let's talk about it. Let's get our hands dirty. I don't know. I said all that just to say, let's talk about pedagogy.
I'm looking more forward to spreading more awareness about the podcast. I'm down for whatever conversation, as long. I shouldn't say that. I'm excited to, as I said, spread more awareness about um, diversity at Crane, and just get more people to notice what's going on, and having people to listen and talking about it will just really make everyone feel um, more better about themselves and the overall condition of the school.
Yeah, I'm gonna vibe with whatever you have to put down, honestly, because it's not conversations that have been had, at least in this realm, and I think it's really important. And I'm also excited to spread the word. And if someone says something that or asks something, and expects me to tell them, it's like, listen to this
Listen to this
podcast.
Now we're talking about this guy's just
Yeah, exactly. I'll be like, listen to this podcast, and I won't have to say a word to you ever again. No, that was mean, but you know what I mean.
Please go.
At least about that. At least about like educating in that regard. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, but yeah, I'm glad that you guys answered that for me, because I a lot of it too. When I was sitting doing my research, my topic is so broad. It's like people of color contributed to modern day music.
Yeah.
That's huge. Like it's everything. So a lot of it was just like, oh my god, like I'm short circuiting. I'm like, what am I gonna talk about? What am I gonna talk about? And I just really wanted to hear like what you guys were thinking for me, because I also want to make sure I'm researching things that would benefit everyone and everyone.
Like in terms of your podcast?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to be using it as like an educational tool for myself, just to get more knowledgeable about Black artists, artists of color in general. Everyone, like all of us are Black. We can't really speak on like the other experiences of people of color at this school, but I definitely feel like there's, even beyond our specific communities, a lack of knowledge just within music outside of the white sphere in general. So I'm looking forward and really want to just be able to learn the knowledge without having to necessarily work for it myself. Just like pop it on when I'm driving to school and not have to think about where am I going to find an article about the history of Asian pop music. The fact that there's going to be something out there that I can just easily access. It's going to be great.
Oh my gosh. Okay. But yeah, I'm glad that you guys answered that for me, because I a lot of it too. When I was sitting doing my research, my topic is so broad. It's like people of color contributed to modern day music. That's huge. Like it's everything. So a lot of it was just like, oh my god, like I'm short circuiting. I'm like, what am I gonna talk about? What am I gonna talk about? And I just really wanted to hear like what you guys were thinking for me, because I also want to make sure I'm researching things that would benefit everyone and everyone that we know. All right, guys, so that's the end of it. I want to thank everyone for coming and talking to me. I hope you all enjoyed listening to Musically Driven. My next episode should be out February 26th, so make sure to stay listening.
Danney, you are amazing.
I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Da 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 da.